Hey there, welcome back to Lanny Has a Podcast. My name is Lanny and this is my podcast. Thanks for joining me. I know I've been saying I was going to do a podcast for a long time. My friends are like, "What is taking so freaking long? What are you doing over there?" Okay, well, it's not like I have not. It's not like I have not been busy. I've been very busy. When I left work, real work in 2020, I was going to do a podcast and get it going, and then I had to have hip replacement on the right side, and then my mom became terribly ill with cancer, was terminal, and we spent all of our time with her, and she passed almost 6 months after her diagnosis. And so then we did deal with that, and then, of course, COVID comes through, of course, and shuts everything shuts everything down. Then liquidate the property in Baytown and all that jazz. And then as soon as we got through with all that stuff, poor my wife's poor mother died in Kissimmee, Florida, where she lives, and so we had to repeat this, rinse and repeat, and go there and take care of those things there and get it all liquidated. And so. And then I came out of that and had to have left hip surgery done, and that was ugly. They did the surgery once in September, and they called me back and said, "Got to do it again. How about November 11th?" I'm like, "How about you jump up and kiss my, iliac?" Then they did it again in November, then did it again in December, and by the time they did it the fourth time in January, I was completely numb because everybody's like, "You didn't. I mean, what were you? Weren't you angry?" And I said, I went through all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to go into that because I think you can imagine what goes on when your doctor keeps telling you these wrong dates to come back for completion because you just want out. All right, is that so wrong? So that has been almost 6 years of our life over here dealing with life because life happens. But the podcast, I'm having fun doing it. It took 6 months to try to put the podcast together, trying to find a producer, which I don't have one. I don't need it. Well, actually, I do need it, but it's not going to happen. Trying to figure out which software things to use, Substack or this one that I'm on. So it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. And I'm not going to get on here and read the news. I can't do traffic reports because these shows are taped and who knows what time you're watching them. And thank God this goes out on YouTube, and thank God because my whole family can sit in their den and flip on YouTube and see Dear Old Dad. Right? Right, kids? That's right. And you can check in anytime to see what we're up to. What I'm laughing about this week, and I'm not going to go into a real deep dive on any of this stuff, I'm laughing about the Scott Pelley CBS, knockdown. It wasn't funny a week ago when it happened because I'm like, what? What? Contracts, conflict of interest, contracts, and blah, blah, blah. And a legacy of a show that's been on for, I think they said more than 50 years. But I quit watching 60 Minutes a long time ago. I don't know about you, but I can't live my life around when the TV program comes on. Although I do for the Astros. And I will go to my grave protecting the Astros and watch them every single time I get, either in person or on my TV screen here. But CBS, I was telling a friend the other night at a party, their priority is not 60 Minutes at CBS. Their priority is NFL football because it's NFL football on CBS, if you know that logo and you see that little 10-second commercial. And then their other priority is golf. Yes, the Masters golf. Well, tennis too. But golf, you never see them interrupt a golf match or the other shows. And now it's time for 60 Minutes. They don't do that. So by the time I get home and on a Sunday afternoon, flip on the TV, I'm watching the last quarter of a team. I don't even know who the hell they are on the NFL. I'm waiting for 60 Minutes. And when they come on, they're like 15 minutes into the series. And so you just missed half of the show. But I gave up on all that. I gave up on 2020 primetime and all that mess because I realized that I've known this so long. I got a life to live. I really do. I mean, I'm retired from working, and I don't miss any of that working. I just miss the people I worked with. But and to that point, with Scott Pelley and CBS having a knockdown drag out, we've all had bad days at our TV station. We've all been disagreeable at our radio stations and even at our newspapers and magazines and wherever else you're working for somebody else. We've always had a conflict of interest going on with somebody, your editor, your producer, your photographer, whatever. It's going to go on and stuff, but we were laughing. I said, why in the world that all these people were fired 1 week before Scott Pelley was fired? They fired the two anchor ladies and both of their producers and fired the executive producer of 60 Minutes, Tanya Simon, and she is the top cheese over there. So when you're sitting at your desk and you see all these people boxing up and leaving and boxing up and leaving and boxing up and leaving, wouldn't you spend the weekend with your agent or your manager or your attorney? And they would advise you, go to the meeting, Scott, on Monday, and don't say a word. Just collect all the paperwork they give you, don't say a word, and bring the paperwork to me as soon as you leave the room there. But he did not, as we're laughing about. He exploded, and good for him. What the hell? You're going out anyway, one way or the other. But he ripped into him, and I was like, here's the deal. And I told this old lady the other night, and she got really angry with me about it. So I don't care. Shut up. That's your boss. I don't care how lame he is. He is your boss. He's been hired to be a roughshod over you. So don't say anything to those people. Let them go on and on and on and have them call your agent or manager and make them do the work that way. But do not go against your boss's word when they're telling you, you kind of suck, Scott. And the deal is, I also thought about this. They took him off the evening news because the ratings were in the toilet. So why would anyone think he's going to be much better at 60 Minutes? I don't know, Scott. I don't work for CBS. I've never worked for them. Have no vested interest whatsoever. I'm just a viewer who quit viewing a long time ago because they're busy, running the NFL clock and golf stuff, and good for them for that. But yeah, it's gone from dark side of, oh my God, this is happening, and then this side of the week, it's been like, oh, they just ruined everything, and they just murdered 60 Minutes. But so we finally broke down the other night. My friends the other night they were all writers there. So we, blew it out of the can and said, all right, let's milk that elephant in the room and, get into the Scott Pelley thing. And so the room was half and half, but the lady to the left of me was not half and half. She absolutely hates CBS, and she's going to be writing them letters from here on out. And good for her for doing that, and good for everybody who doesn't agree with me or agrees with me. I don't care. It's my podcast, and I will party if I want to. And I've got more shows coming up. We'll have lots of guests on here. Rolling. I'm just now getting on my feet again for summer, and it's taken a long time to recover from the last hip replacement. They did it, like I said, 4 times in a row. So that was slow recovery there. But I'm on my feet, and I appreciate you tuning in. You're listening to Lanny Has a Podcast, and isn't that scary?